And good morning. We are live. Welcome to Broncos for Breakfast. Right now, I have gone solo because I haven't heard from Nick. I'm actually a little concerned. It's I waited till 9:35. I sent him a text, and we'll wait and see. But right now, I didn't want to keep everybody waiting. That typically comes in, like Dave Glassman, who comes in, and then we'll carry this on. Just with the Broncos community for the time being until I hear from Nick or Nick pops in and I see him and we'll add him to the stream. So hopefully everything is going okay. I just sent him a text and said, are you all right out there? So that's one of my concerns right now is that everything is going okay for Nick. But our entire community is here. So and yeah, Peter, welcome in. Said it's a one-man show. So I do need your help, Peter, with the Facebook stars because normally I can keep an eye on the other stream while Nick's talking or while we're both talking. But right now I'm going to be keeping an eye on the chat and I'll be talking a lot, so it'll be a little tougher. But welcome in. This is Broncos for Breakfast, and it's just with Scott Kennedy. I am Scott Kennedy. And what we want to do today is I want to talk a little bit of Las Vegas Raiders. And I want to answer any of the questions that y'all might have about the Raiders, about the Broncos. I want to make this as interactive as possible on Broncos for Breakfast. One, makes it easier for me. And two, I think it's more fun. So it's killed two birds with one stone. Appreciate y'all coming in and hitting the likes. I see those coming in already as we are starting to go. And Daniel Miller's already fired up, no pun intended, fire Fangio. And, I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon, but, you're starting to get the feeling that it might be a little bit of a dead man walking type syndrome, but we'll get into that here in a little bit. What I want to get into right now is the Las Vegas Raiders. And I just got done watching a little bit of the Raiders and Chicago Bears game. And I know the news broke before that game, but it astounds me how that Raiders team could possibly have been 3-1 going into that game with wins over the Ravens and the Steelers. You've got to think that this is going to affect all of this turmoil is having an effect on the Las Vegas Raiders. Either that or they just got off to a really good start and they're reverting back to the norm because they were not good. They were not good against the Chicago Bears and more worrisome for the Raiders and Raiders fans is where they weren't good was in the trenches. The Chicago Bears really pushed them around on offense. They ran the ball well, and I went and looked. I was like, they're 3-1. What is their rushing defense like? And I looked it up. I'm like, okay, yeah, it's 25th or 26th in the league. That seems about right. So when we're talking about keys to this game, I'll just get it all out here quick. We're talking about keys to this game. I think the Denver Broncos should be able to run the ball against these guys and then pick them apart. Justin Fields, they beat him by 2 scores. Justin Fields wasn't good in that game, but the offensive line was not good for the Raiders. They couldn't stop the front four of the Chicago Bears and let them dictate the game, so they couldn't move the ball. So let's go in, and I want to say good morning to the chat just a little bit. And if you're just coming in, I don't know where Nick is, so I'm a little concerned about that. Hopefully everything's going well. That's never in the 6 months we've been doing the show. This hasn't ever been a problem. So, maybe he's just got an internet outage or a phone outage. I texted him right before I came on and said, hey, I hope you're okay out there. And I'm just kind of waiting to hear back, but I wanted to go ahead and come on and get into Broncos for Live. But let's say hey to the chat real quick. Falling Sloth. One of my favorite screen names. Good morning, Scott, in Broncos country. If you haven't already done so, something I looked up and suggested to Chad, go to broncoscountry.com and tell me what you see. We already hit Daniel Miller and Travis Weber coming in. Good morning, Scott. Wake up, Nick. Sorry, no stars still tonight. Hey, Travis, no problem. You don't have to apologize to us for no stars. Anything that you can and do give is great, but I don't do this expecting y'all to come in and start throwing stars and supers. I am super appreciative when you do, but it's not an expectation. Kind of like when I got married. I'm not going to make dinner every night, so I'm not going to ask my wife to make dinner every night. That doesn't seem fair, but I'm super appreciative when she does. Jeremy, always on time, says, I was wondering, I need my Broncos for breakfast fix. I'm here. Like I said, I'm a little concerned, but going to try and go get through all that and kind of put the concern behind me as we talk Broncos here for a little while. Brett C. Will the Raiders be motivated? Welcome, Brett. That's a relatively new name. I don't recognize that one. So welcome in. Will the Raiders be motivated to play after Gruden resigned? Could go either way. It really could. They certainly, I'll tell you one thing, they certainly didn't look motivated to play for him on Sunday. They looked terrible. They looked terrible. They looked terrible in the trenches. The defense outside of middle linebacker, I thought had a good game. Let me see who it was that popped for me. Denzel Perryman. I thought he looked number 52 in the middle of that defense. I thought he looked really good. On the other, as far as defense is kind of a passion and energy type of thing, and how you play that, and they looked pretty lifeless. DeAndre coming in, appreciate you, DeAndre. Always here and always with us on all of the shows. Good morning, Scott. Broncos can beat the Raiders. First key, better play calling, and the second, make adjustments, and thirdly, run the ball and get sacks and turnovers. That's pretty much key for every game, any team. You can do those things, you're going to win a lot of games. But no, I agree with you. I think, you look at Javonte Williams has at least one highlight type of run every game. And then you look down at the box score at the end, and it's like 9 carries, 8 carries. Melvin Gordon, he's had some pretty good runs too. 6 carries, 7 carries. There's single digits for these guys. And, if you add them up and you're running the ball 25 to 30 times a game, okay. But the Broncos aren't. And against a 25th, bottom third ranked rushing defense, when you weren't able to throw the ball quite effectively versus the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think you have to run the ball in this game. Have to. Mo Ron coming in. Appreciate you, Mo. Solo show right now. I'm hoping not. I'm hoping Nick comes in, but we'll go at least 30 minutes or so here early this morning. I'm already 8 minutes in. This stuff flies by when you're going through this thing. So this comment was a few minutes ago, so you've heard me say already that I'm not sure where Nick is. So hopefully things are going okay. I've got my phone with the ringer on, so if I get a text message from him, I will let y'all know. And got my Broncos for breakfast mug. I know someone else did as well. It was Richard. There we go. It was Richard. He got his mug today. Well, good. Broncos for breakfast. They're sharp, aren't they? Aren't they? I like them a lot. And I can tell Nick's the popular one on the show because I'm watching the total numbers come in, and it says, they go up, and then it's like, oh God, it's just that guy, and then they go back down. So appreciate you sticking with me for those of you that are, for sure. Peter coming in also, he says, still feels strange calling them the Las Vegas Raiders. My friend from Scotland actually wants to see them when he's in Vegas. Yuck. I was totally, to me, they're the Oakland Raiders. They will always be the Oakland Raiders, but they're getting enough California traffic in Las Vegas that it might not be that different. I mean, that's a weekend trip from LA, from Oakland, for a lot of people, that I think you're still going to see a lot of the California, the Oakland, and the LA fans at those games. It's just going to be really good for the city of Las Vegas when they come in and make a long weekend out of it. So it's growing on me. It is. I will call them Oakland. If I call them anything, I'll try and just stick to Raiders so I don't screw it up. I will call them Oakland before we get out of here. I have no doubt in my mind. Let me see. Where is Clee? I had this one in here. I had the chat just bounced on me. We're a little bit farther ahead. Sorry, this is what it's hard to do when you're going solo. Clee says Raiders will play like they've been liberated and blow out the Broncos. Now you sound like an Atlanta sports fan. Maybe it's hard to turn it on and off like that. When you call it, sometimes you call it the new coach bounce, the new manager bounce, when you get a reaction like that and things start going really well. Right out of the gate where you start playing over your head, that's what you're afraid of if you're the Denver Broncos. The other thing you're afraid of is on the flip side of that, are the Denver Broncos packing it in? I don't think so. But, that's one of the things you're worried about. Will this team respond? We said going into last week, we have to see a response. You can lose that game to the Steelers, but you have to see a response. After getting drubbed by the Ravens, Well, we saw a response, but it didn't come till the fourth quarter. The first three quarters were just kind of, yeah, we're here. It's early. We got in late. 17-game season. We can mail this one in. So this game coming up, you lose 3 in a row after a 3-0 start. Now the seat's already a little warm. It starts getting a little warmer. The local media starts turning on you just a little bit, and it can start to get ugly quick when you're coming in with a coach that wasn't all that popular coming into the season. It's not like he was a new coach. I've said before, with George Payton coming in, I was a little surprised that he didn't make a move, that they didn't make a move beforehand and bring in his own guy. I think it's going to be a 1-year leash on Vic Fangio and his staff, and they have to get things going in the right direction again. And this presents a pretty good chance. Team turmoil and the Las Vegas Raiders. I think they got a thank you note from Urban Meyer in Jacksonville for taking all of I call them the scandal plague Jacksonville Jaguars. I think they just got a thank you note over there to sent from Jacksonville over to Las Vegas. Peter says the Raiders will be fourth as always. If you're old enough, my age, you remember when it's almost like Notre Dame. Remember when they were really good, but they still get a lot of attention for some reason. It was the Steelers were the team of the 70s, the 49ers a team of the 80s, and the Cowboys a team of the 90s. And then the Raiders had Super Bowls in each one of those decades, and there was a poster that says the team for all ages. It was kind of cool. Well, they haven't been a team for the 2000s. We're 21 years into this thing. Andrew Lampy coming in. Appreciate you being here. Good morning. Good morning. And Peter checking in says the stars. Oh, stars from Peter also, and stars from Andros. So thank you very much. And Jeremy makes a good point here. Says the first quarter will tell us everything. We need to jump on them, or else we're going to have a fight. Yeah, I think that swings both ways. Honestly, Jeremy, I think these are two fairly fragile teams right now. That if one of the teams, if you see a 2-score lead early, that might be it. That might be your winner. This Broncos team isn't necessarily built for a high-flying type of comeback. They are going to be a run the ball, grind it out, which is great because that's what Las Vegas struggled with last week against the Bears. And Teddy Bridgewater is better than Justin Fields right now. So you've got more offensive weapons across the board. Your skill players across the board, I think, are better than what Chicago's putting out there. And they controlled the ball. One more key, and I'm going to get back to the chat here real quick. I didn't mind the selection of Alex Leatherwood at the time. I thought he was a high second rounder, maybe a late first rounder. And if that's your guy, then take him. Then take him. If that's your guy, and if you can't get the right offer to trade back and you feel good about him, take him. Oh my God, was he awful in that game? I watched the Falcons. Every game, I've seen some bad offensive line play. I watched Jalen Mayfield get tossed around like a rag doll by Hargraves and the Philadelphia Eagles. Alex Leatherwood was as bad as a performance on the offensive line and the interior line as I can remember seeing. I'm watching the condensed version, and it's a 4th and 1 in the first or early second quarter, and I hear Charles Davis say number 70, right guard, and the next thing I know, Eddie Goldman is just 4th and 1, blows him up into the backfield and just sends him 5 yards backwards. I'm like, oh my God. So I look him up. I was like, has he been this bad all season? And if you put any stock into the Pro Football Focus rankings, he's last out of 74 offensive guards in this league. Alex Leatherwood is last, and he was on the right side. Guess who else is on the right side? How about Draymond Jones and Von Miller doing some stunts and pushing in on there? So there is certainly a weakness on that offensive line that can be exploited. If they don't do something to take care of that, nothing else matters because they've got a giant gaping hole on their OL. They call it the black hole, and that's what they used to have in Oakland. Well, they've got one. They've got a giant gaping hole on their offensive line right now. Let me go down through the chat just a little bit. DBA in here. What's up, Scott? I hope the Bigfoot didn't get Nick. At my age, he may have told me he wasn't going to be here, and I just forgot. That's possible. I don't think so, though. I talked with him. We did this yesterday, so maybe a power outage, and hopefully the Bigfoot didn't get Nick, and it is just a power outage. We know that the internet there can have some problems. Luckily for me, in my uppity neighborhood, I've got two choices of gigabit Ethernet, so I usually have pretty decent Wi-Fi here. Nathan, another big supporter of the show. See, when y'all are on the night show and you see all the compilations and stuff, I've been on every night show for the past 6 weeks but 4, so I'm around. For better or for worse, I'm here, so I get to see all y'all come in, and I know Nathan is always coming in and contributing. And appreciate this one, Nathan, contributing to Broncos for breakfast. And Vic says, I hope he's okay. Good morning, Scott. Good morning, Vic. And me too. We're 30 minutes past when I should have heard back from him right now. So makes me, like I said, makes me a little bit nervous. Going down, and Gary says, hey, Scott, we got you. And again, I've had such a blast doing this. We started doing this right before the draft. So April, May, June, July, August, September. We're 6 months into this little venture of ours. And, I've had a lot of fun. I've had a lot of fun doing it and learning more about all of y'all. And then actually, learning more about the Denver Broncos for sure. And Gary, thank you for the stars as well. And Richard came in. He says, with one of his questions, should Darby play and replace Fuller? If Darby is healthy, then yeah, he needs to be right back in there for sure. Fuller's on a 1-year contract, so that makes me feel better. I don't necessarily think that we're paying this guy a ton of money, we've got to get him in the lineup. You do that for guys that you have on multi-year contracts, that you have a big investment in, that you need. It's like, listen, if he was on a 3-year contract at $10 million per guaranteed, then you got to get Fuller going. You can't afford for him not to be. But this could be just a sunk cost. And if he doesn't turn it around, he's going to find himself down the pecking order. He's not going to be put in there just because he's on big money. Surtan's on big money as a top 10 pick. Darby's on big money as a free agent. Callahan, you want to give him that big money. So right now what I'm seeing is Callahan's getting Fuller money next year. Maybe not that much money, but that's where that money's going to go, because you're certainly not bringing Fuller back the way he's playing right now. So should Darby play and replace Fuller? If he's healthy, he should be taking snaps from Fuller, definitely. Gary and Peter definitely had some stars. Let me come in, and US Dave, always a big supporter of what we do and across the platforms. We had a good chat yesterday talking the Atlanta Falcons with Nick, and US Dave and Jeremy and everybody that comes in. Certainly appreciate you doing that as well. Richard coming in again saying the Broncos need to cut down on dumb penalties. Those cost us 12 points last week. Well, if you like dumb penalties and the Broncos are going to commit some, you're going to like this game, because you know who else commits a lot of dumb penalties? Yeah, you guessed it, the Las Vegas Raiders. Al Davis used to accuse the refs and the officials of targeting him because he was so outspoken against the league. There might be something to that. I don't know how you can be the most penalized team in the league for 50 years. And maybe there's a little bit of that. There's a phrase I like to use. I might be biased, but it doesn't mean I'm wrong. So Al Davis may have been biased. He may have said it feels like they're out to get us, but it's not paranoia. You're not paranoid if they really are out to get you. So yeah, cutting down on that. The way, like I said, it's a one game and it's a small sample size, and I didn't watch them against the Ravens, and some of y'all probably did. And Steelers, I don't know how they weren't going to beat anybody the way they played against the Bears. Nobody. So Denver needs to keep that and pile that momentum on top of where the Raiders are coming out of this. They're going to have some pride. They're going to be pissed off. They're a laughing stock right now. It's a serious matter. It's not a joke. It's a serious matter why he's gone, but everybody's still poking fun at the Raiders. And these guys are going to want to have some pride. So they could come out very, very strong. Are they good enough? Does it matter? I didn't see that in the trenches, and that's what would scare me if I was a Raiders fan. I did not see them being good enough in the trenches to be a good team. So that 3-0 start, 3-1 start, they started 3. They were 3-1 going to the game. I think they were 3-0 and then have dropped the last 2. Um, let me go back down here a little bit. And Travis says, if we lose on Sunday, I hate to say it, but Fangio, Shermer deserve to be shown the door. I don't see it happening mid-season. I don't. Not at 3-3. I think that would be a little bit of just a little bit too much of a knee-jerk reaction. I think if you continue to slide and the playoffs become a farther and farther in the view, it could happen. Then you do an interim and say, listen, we got to save this season. We got to save our young players. We got to make sure nobody gets hurt. All of those type of things. And then maybe you bring in an interim. But I think the Broncos are going to be just good or bad enough, whatever your perspective might be, that they don't ever fall that low that they're going to need to make a midseason change. I certainly, but I can see it coming. It's in the wind right now. That's the way the wind's blowing right now. Hopefully Nick overslept. Yeah, he doesn't oversleep. He does a show at 6:30 in the morning. He is in Seattle and does a show at 6:30 in the morning. Meanwhile, I'm blinking and bleary-eyed at 6:30 in the morning. Nice shirt. Hey, thanks, Mo. You know what? I actually thought this is actually a little red, like a light red, but I was like, you know what? It's going to look very Denver Bronco-y on this show, on this light. So I picked it out just for this reason. Carrie, I don't recognize your name, Carrie. So Carrie, welcome in, joining us from Facebook. So why are we playing defense so timidly, like no pressure or playing up? I have a couple thoughts on that. Thank you for asking. Against the Jets, I think that was the right strategy. The Falcons just played the Jets, and I had this very same question. Why I got tired of seeing the hand fighting, is what somebody said. I was like, against the Jets, I think you want Zach Wilson in that pocket. You don't want him freelancing. So that strategy, because the Broncos played the Jets recently, that strategy was fine. I'm okay with that. Keep him in the pocket because his decision-making, it just ain't there right now. When he freelances and breaks containment, then he becomes dangerous. However, no pressure trying to contain Lamar Jackson. About 31 out of 32 quarterbacks you want to put pressure on. Zach Wilson was the exception to that rule. Why are we playing defense so timidly? It is a bend but don't break type of system. Now, I think you've got to start getting more from Malik Reed on the other side. I think you're really starting to feel the absence of Bradley Chubb, and people are able to throw two men at Vaughn. And unfortunately, if you take Vaughn out of the pass rush and drop him into coverage, you're just limiting yourself. You're taking your best pass rusher out of the scheme to put pressure on the quarterback. That's on you. That's on you. So right now says no pressure or playing up. I think overall, if you look at the points given up, which at the end of the day, that's the most important thing. Denver Broncos, let me see where they are right now. Denver Broncos, total points. Let me see if I can find that one right now. Penalty yards, scoring defense, points for. Denver's still second by 11. They've got a double-digit lead on third behind the Buffalo Bills. So you're still talking about the second best scoring defense in the NFL. What's the problem? I mean, if you look at it, if you just take all of it out of there and say, are we playing defense well or not? You've got the second best scoring defense in the NFL. That's good. That's really good. So holistically, the scheme is working, but the bend but don't break feels like it's not working at times, especially when you're not converting third downs on your side of the ball. When they've got the ball for so long and you go 3 and out and give it right back to them, another team gets another 10 plays and kicks a field goal, kicks off, you get it, you go 3 and out again. That's when it starts to feel like defense right now is a problem. But overall, the scoring defense is still, like I said, you got a double-digit lead on third place. If I take 11 points and add it to third place and put them at 98, that drops them to 7th or 8th. So the third place team is closer to 8th than they are to 2nd. So overall, I think the scheme is working. The offense has to pick it up. The offense has to carry their share of the load too and convert third downs and keep the ball a little bit more often. There's definitely there's a synergy there for sure, but I feel like you wouldn't notice the scheme. You wouldn't feel that way. The bend it broke, don't break wouldn't be so jarring if the offense was keeping the ball longer. Let me see here. The chat jumped on me again. I had Jeremy saying not true, Scott. So I was being called out for something. So I want to make sure that that I got it here. See, now I can't find it anymore. Here we go. Not true, Scott. You might not have started a Broncos guy, but your family now. Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. I didn't mean to have one that seemed, I didn't mean to push that one up there that seemed so self-indulgent for me. That was not a mistake. That was not on purpose, but I certainly appreciate it, Jeremy. Victor coming in, saying good morning. Thank you very much. And this is a good question from Nathan, too. Which job do you think coaching candidates will find more attractive, Denver or Las Vegas? I think Denver. I think Denver. I'm an outsider, so I can say this, pretty honestly. What you're looking for as a head coach is, a nice core of young rosters, some stability. The ownership thing gets overblown a little bit. Will the team put resources into free agents? Are they going to lose their best players? Is a fan base good? Do I like the location? All of these type of things. Maybe the biggest thing you got going against you right now is two of the better teams are also in the division. Money talks. If you're going after a young guy, and that's everybody I keep reading from in these chats, they want, a young offensive mind, this type of thing. They're just really happy to get their first shot at something like this. So if you go early and you go identify your guy and you recruit the hell out of him, there's no reason why you couldn't bring him to Denver. Clee coming in saying Fangio and crew are awful, Scott. I'm seeing some of that myself. One of the comparisons and contrasts I came, and I'm sorry to talk Falcons again, but the Falcons have a new coach, and Arthur Smith went uber conservative against Washington, and they were up 8 points, went 3 and out, 2 runs. Cordell Patterson's not involved. Give the ball back. Washington goes down and scores. Try and run the ball again. 5 plays. Give the ball back. Washington go down and scores. They ran 8 plays, and then they were down. They went from an 8-point lead to giving up 2 touchdowns. And he came out and said, I was pissed off at myself for that. I'm going to make a lot of mistakes, but I hope not to make the same mistake twice. And this was in the same situation, after the Jets had come back from 20-17, called a 40-yard pass to Kyle Pitts. Best player on the field, get him involved. Seems simple enough. And I was pleased, and not just for any coach, to hear the humility and the accountability and the correction. 2 of those 3 things you don't get very often. You certainly don't get humility and accountability out of professional coaches in college or NFL. They will correct it. They will self-scout and correct if they're any good. But I'm not overly impressed with what I've seen so far, Clee, 6 months into our relationship here. KB, good morning. Losing the linebacker Williams seemed like a mistake. Who do you think we should have put on the practice squad instead of him? Kyle Fuller? No, I'm just kidding on that. I don't know. I don't know the whole depth all the way down the chart. Would you rather lose Avery Williams or Brett Rippon? Is that the one? Because Brett Rippon got elevated pretty much because you're afraid of losing him. Well, you're not going to play the third string guy. The third string guy never plays. So why are you keeping him? So I might go that way instead. And if you lose Rippon, if you're going to lose one of those guys, so be it. But that's the direction I might have gone. Let me go through here. So Nathan says, I hope my Dodgers pull through and meet your Braves in the LCS. I'd rather see the Giants at this point. I'm tired of losing to the Dodgers. I want to lose to somebody else for a change. And I'm going to go down a little bit more. And as Vic says, it's sink or swim time. It is. This is an inflection point for the Denver Broncos. I firmly believe that. And DeAndre says, they can't get swept by the Raiders again this season. That's for sure. That's for sure. Let me freshen this up here a little bit. My Broncos for breakfast mug. Let me find the banner to where you can go and get this. How about that for a plug? I'm like a pro, huh? The problem I have with this mug is it's not big enough. So I have to bring my French press with me and do live pours. But on Broncos for breakfast, that makes sense. 20-something years ago, I probably would have done that with a pitcher of beer, and it would have been real interesting here after an hour or so. There we go. There's a new name, Colby. I believe I recognize the picture, even if not the name. So good morning, Scott and Broncos for breakfast. If you're coming in late, like I said, I went solo because one, I love this show. I love doing the show with y'all. And two, I don't know where Nick is. So we're working on 40 minutes, and I sent him a text. He certainly isn't the type to, go on a bender and just, oh yeah, that's just Nick. No, he's about as OCD about being on time as I am. So at 9:31 my time, if he's not around, I start getting a little nervous. Stars from Michael Ranquillo, of course. Michael, welcome in. I just addressed that. Where is Nick? I don't know. So if you're the praying type, throw in a quick prayer for him, even if it's something minor. It doesn't hurt to send out some good energy into the universe. That's for sure. Let me go back down a little bit here. Speaking of Jacksonville, the first team since the 70s, 80s Bucks to lose 20 in a row. Really? Did they win early last year and then go like 1-15? Is that I didn't realize it was quite that awful. Doug coming in saying, good morning, Scott. The Broncos have the talent, but the passion seems to be missing. All right, I got a little spoiler alert for you. I'm going to be on tonight. Chad is going to be gone. That one I do know. So I'm going to be on tonight with Zach. And Zach and I see eye to eye on some things, but there's a lot of things that we don't. And I don't think he's ever watched this show. I don't know, because I don't think he's up early enough to watch a show out there for sure. But there's some things that we don't necessarily see eye to eye on. And for me, one of these is, says the Broncos have the talent, but the passion seems to be missing. Now, my question is, do we overrate some of these players? Do we overrate some of them? There is still plenty of talent out there. Don't get me wrong. But one of the guys that's disappearing, is it all on Shurmur? Is everything right now on Shurmur, depending on which side of the fence you sit on the quarterback play, except the quarterback play, because either Drew Lock sucks or Teddy Bridgewater sucks. And then you can still blame, Shurmur for that. That's what I've been hearing in some of these things. But let's say Noah Fant. Noah Fant was a first-round draft pick. And is he playing up to it? Has he played up to it in the past? Is this a regression, or is this possibly a miss? And the other part of this, Doug, that I've seen is I felt like for the first time that we've been watching, where we talk about talent and depth, that the injuries caught up. Let's go through some of the players that you missed in this game that when we're going to the season, we're thinking of having. Jerry Jeudy. If you miss Jerry Jeudy on offense and his ability to catch and run and extend a play, if the quarterback extends a play in the preseason, who did Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater hit on big plays after they extended a play? Jerry Jeudy. Missing Jerry Jeudy. KJ Hamler. The production isn't necessarily there. It's fairly low production, but his threat would have, and if he had caught one long pass from Teddy Bridgewater, his production would have tripled. But the threat of him out there and what he can do, you're missing him. Let's go on defense. Pittsburgh couldn't run the ball that well going into this game, and they bullied Denver around a little bit. Who are you missing there? You're missing Josie Jewell. For sure. Absolutely. I don't think anybody realized how badly the Broncos were going to miss Josie Jewell until they saw this game, because I'm looking up there coming in. The scouting report on Josie Jewell was, blue collar guy, will come up and make a tackle, do his job, stuff in the run, et cetera, et cetera. But what I saw was a guy that was getting lateral also. He was becoming a 3-down type of linebacker. And you missed him. You missed him for sure. Alexander Johnson is okay, but I don't think he's necessarily a difference maker. And every time I saw him making tackles in the game against the Steelers, it was 7 yards past the line of scrimmage. You needed that guy coming up that was ready to be a thumper. And unfortunately, the guy that fits that bill the most right now for the Denver Broncos is Kareem Jackson. And I'm not sure I want that from a former corner 205-pounder all the time, 210-pounder coming all the time, because It's a middleweight fighting with heavyweights when he goes up there and gets in there. It's exciting and it's fun, but I don't know how sustainable that is. When I was listening to the game on the radio and it says Kareem Jackson is out with going through concussion protocols, I was like, well, no kidding. That doesn't surprise me. I just got a text, but it is not from Nick, so we're still waiting on that one. Chris Hernandez, also in the chat, said, good morning, MHH fam. Positive vibes going into Raiders week. Let's get this. They need it. The Broncos need it. The Raiders could win this game and it could provide a distraction, but it wouldn't change. When you talk about need, we need some positive vibes, and what could it do? It's not going to change their season. Their season's going to be defined this year by John Gruden. The Broncos still have a chance to. You go 4-2, you're moving, and you're moving on. 4-2 sounds pretty good. 4-2 mean 2 games above 500. If I go 4-2, 6 games, I got 11 left. 5-6 the rest of the way gives me 9 wins and a shot at making the playoffs. And if one of those goes the other direction, 10 wins should definitely get me in. Leroy Williams, appreciate you, Leroy. I'm sorry, they're still not going to go after the weakness of the Raiders because of the play calling and defense. Fangio going to have Von Miller sticking with Ruggs. On defense, they're not going to have a whole lot of choice but to go out, because Draymond Jones, if they don't do something to help Alex Leatherwood on the offensive line, Draymond Jones is going to kill Derek Carr. Not literally, I hope. But he'll kill that offense. He will kill that offense if they don't do something to help. And that should open up the other side of this. So look at your nose guard. Look at the other side, because Shelby Harris get involved. I've liked what I've seen from Shamar Stevens at times, but Deshaun Williams, Malik Reed, we've talked about him needing to step up. And then maybe every so often you can bring in a safety blitz. Like I just mentioned, I love seeing Kamikaze Jackson coming out of the safety position. Let's turn him loose. Justin Stearns, Caden Stearns is playing really well. Let's let him take the backside and turn Kareem Jackson loose on the quarterback. I'm okay with that. And Chris, thanks for helping out Peter. I won't call you Pete. I don't know if you like that or not. With the Always with the Stars, and I believe you're on YouTube and Facebook with the on the leaderboard too as well. So appreciate you there. Let me see. A lot of Facebook. Our YouTube's kind of quiet. The Facebook chat is going off today. So here we go. This is from Miguel. Miguel, that almost sounds Spanish, like European Spanish. Miguel Santisteban. Good morning, Scott. I hope the Broncos don't overlook the Raiders, because interims have a lot of success, and that's what we were talking about earlier with being the new coach bounce. They come in and they play a little bit harder. The guys are trying to fight for their jobs. The new guys are energized because I got a chance under the new coach to move ahead of that guy. This guy had already made their decision. We hear that a lot about, does Drew Lock have a chance under Pat Shurmur? He had one. Do you think he'll ever be the starting quarterback if everybody else is healthy under Pat Shurmur again, or has that decision already been made? So a new coach comes in and it's a fresh start. It's a fresh start for everybody. And it's not just a fresh start for the players that were down the totem pole. It is a time for the guys that were at the top to say, I got to keep this spot now. And I couldn't stand that SOB that was out of here. And I feel liberated again. So I don't think anybody is overlooking anyone. The Broncos have to self-scout. They've got to look within and say, how much do I really want to be here? Because what are the words that we've heard in this chat on these pods? It's been the lack of passion, the lack of fire, the lack of motivation. They come up, they look like they're not up for it. That's got to change. That's got to change against the Raiders for sure. Let me move down the chat just a little bit. Falling Sloth. I like to highlight that name all the time just because it's cool. So we probably also don't have anyone good to use an interim coach right now, so it makes a midseason change seem less likely. There's something to that for sure. Not that you couldn't elevate somebody. We've seen you could elevate somebody that you weren't going to keep. How about Pat Shurmur for head coach? Mike Shula was an unsuccessful head coach in college. I'm sure most of y'all probably know he was a head coach at the University of Alabama before they became the University of Alabama again. So he was kind of at the back end of the dark years for the Crimson Tide. Michael, again, Appreciate you throwing the stars in always. If you're not at the top of the leaderboard on Facebook, and we'll see that update again tonight, then you're always top 2 or 3, and number 1 in our hearts. So just teasing. Appreciate you, Michael. And Jeremy says Munchak is your interim head coach, but he's not going to call plays on offense. That's okay. Again, Mike Shula could call an offense. He could. If Mike Shula is still there, he could call an offense. And if you get rid of the head coach, do you fire a coordinator at the same time in midseason? Somebody smarter than me with a better memory than me, let me know how often that happens. That doesn't seem to happen as much. It seems like the head coach ends up, getting the axe and then they clean house afterwards. And I don't remember many, if any, coordinators getting it in the middle of a season without the head coach going. So that I don't see that happening. Let me see. Where are we going? I'm up here. The chat's moving a little fast. I end up talking too much. But yeah, I think there was a comment on the second best scoring defense. That would be surprising, right? We get caught in our own little bubbles, and everything seems either really great or really bad usually, and especially when it's going bad, you forget that other teams struggle as well. Other teams struggle as well. They do go through their ups and downs, their highs and lows, and again, take the John Gruden nonsense out of the equation. And, the Raiders get off to this flying start against the AFC North, and then they're losing again. Now they're 3. You're in the same record. So 3-2, it could be worse. And Jeremy says, Shermer for head coach, what's in that mug, Scott? That was, caffeinated bliss is what I call this. Nap in a cup. I call this nap in a cup sometimes. That was one of those be careful what you ask for type of things. Because who do general managers they look to when they go for interim head coaches? They like guys with previous head coaching experience. And unless you get rid of both of them, if you were to fire your head coach and you would have you look at that staff and you'd be like, okay, who can see us through the rest of the season? His name's going to come towards the top. So be careful with that. Be careful with that. Travis says, I believe Mike Shula was a Bengals head coach as well when they drafted David Klingler. Big arm, Houston, David Klingler. I don't remember him being the head coach. I didn't really start paying attention to him until he was at the University of Alabama, and then I didn't pay that much attention to him after he was gone. But he seems like a good coach, Like he is not necessarily a good head coach. Too much going on, too much of that big shadow of his dad. But when he is a coach and can let the X's and O's take over and use his big football brain, he seems to have had a lot of success. Bama X coming in, since I've just referenced the Crimson Tide a few times. I want to say hello to Bama X. But my main issue is that we may miss out on the coach we actually want if we wait till the end of the season, since the Raiders are officially looking for a head coach. Again, you have to help me out with this. I can't remember somebody plucking someone off a staff mid-season. From my own personal memory banks, I remember the Atlanta Falcons targeting Dan Quinn and basically having an agreement with him while the Seattle Seahawks were making a long playoff run. They went to the Super Bowl that year. I think they won it the year they hired Dan Quinn. So you're going through January with no coach, all of January. Everybody else is interviewing all these guys and making all these hires, and it's starting to get a little panicky time. So I think if you identify the guy and you go out and recruit him, you get permission from the team, you're working with his agent beforehand, doing all those type of things before you actually do an interview. You start testing the waters a little bit. You give plausible deniability, because coaches will say, no, I haven't ever heard from, I never heard from the Denver Broncos. Yeah, my agent has. That's why I have him. So you got to be careful with what you hear. So I don't think that the time issue is necessarily going to be as expensive as tough for you. As a general manager, you always have a list of 3 names at least, basically for every position on the team. every staff member, all of these things, you've got that list constantly because you never know when things are going to blow up. Someone could leave. You're dealing with human beings here, and you start putting out feelers pretty early. Hey, listen, if this thing goes sideways, how interested do you think Kellen Moore might be to come to the Cowboys? You talk to his agent, when you're negotiating a contract with it for one of his other clients. You know all those type of things. So here's where Chad came in. Chad says, "Where's the defensive guru we hired? Big holes in the coverage." I wouldn't say. To me, watching the plays that have given up, I think there's been there's been coverage. Do you talk about execution at that point? I think having Von Miller in coverage in a zone blitz type of thing is a mistake. But the big play for Pittsburgh's first touchdown, if I'm scheming that game and I'm like, okay, we're going to get in this situation, and I've got my $10 million corner on this guy in single coverage, and that's my weak spot, okay, I can live with that. Other things can happen. We should be able to get pressure, and he should be able to make a play. That's not that bad. Now, Fuller didn't make a play, and it burned you bad. But overall, as I've said, the Buffalo Bills are number one in scoring offense, 64 points through 5 games. That's insane. I think that's crazy. 64 points. It's about 12 and a half a game. You're going to a lot of games. You're giving up 12 and a half points a game. The Broncos are 76. They're number 2. And they have a 10-point gap on number 3. So overall, and I'm going to repeat myself because I know there's a lot of people coming in and out, you can't complain too much about the results. The process, I'd like to see the destination is maybe a little bit bumpy, but at the end of the day, scoring defense is what matters. How many points do I give up? And they're number 2 in the league. Man, I'll take that. I will. If we said going into this season, hey, you've got a chance right now to be the number 2 scoring defense in the NFL. Do you want it or not? No, I want to go for number 1. Baloney. You say, I'll take number 2 for sure. And I feel like this is the problem with the bend but don't break and limiting people to 3 and maybe forcing a punt, getting a turnover is exasperated because the offense hasn't been pulling their weight. They haven't been keeping the ball. They're not converting on third downs, and they're giving the ball right back. That's how it's been happening the past couple games. The first 3 games, it worked exactly the opposite. I kind of, yes, those were bad teams, but I liken that team to kind of an anaconda. They're squeezing the life out of these teams. They convert third downs. Maybe they go kick a field goal. Then the defense would hold. Then they'd convert some third downs. They'd move the ball. They'd keep the ball. And by the end, third, fourth quarter, they piled up enough points to throw up 2 or 3 scores, and they've worn out the defense, and they're killing games off. So, I would be happy if just looking across purely from a numbers, data analytics, and say I got the number 2 scoring defense. I'm pretty happy with that, and I know it's not all about. There's got to be the look test as well. We held these teams down, but these teams scored on us. I get that for sure. But on the whole, I think the defense is still doing pretty well, and the number 2 scoring defense in the NFL goes up for that. You know what? Hold on one second because there's our friend Nick. I'm going to mute this and hold on one moment. All right. Am I back? I don't have anybody to say. So give me a thumbs up if you say if it was back. So it was lighthearted. He totally slept through his alarm. A 6 a.m. alarm. Good for him. As hard as he works, he deserves it. So that was it. He may pop in and have a sheepish grin on his face. I don't know, but that's all it was. And we'll get to see Nick, and I'm glad that's all it was because that's not like him. So a good sleep in. He works long, hard hours and does a lot of stuff with us. Does stuff with me outside of this as well, and certainly certainly glad that Nick was just not here because he overslept for his 6:30 show. Understandable. I was happy to hear, and I'm happy you're here too. Mac 85 City coming in with a big super. Good morning to you as well. Is that a Braves hat you have on there? I can't quite tell. It looks like that A. That A. It looks like that. Whenever I see Mac 85 City, the soccer brain in me always thinks Manchester City. For some reason, that looks like Man City to me. So I always recognize your name, even without the great generosity you put to the show. So good morning to you as well. And if you have any questions or anything, I'm running this show today. So make sure you put them back in there and I'll highlight them because you've certainly earned it for sure. An Oakland A's hat. There we go. I thought I could see the A's there for sure. I think the A's are a team that they are certainly to be respected for the things that they do. I told you all we sleep in once in a while. Thank goodness. Yeah, I'm glad for that too. And Dave says, how exciting, live drama. I didn't want to just cancel. So I figured, and I certainly wanted to answer the phone. So I definitely wanted to take that phone call. I wouldn't normally do that. Normally I silence my phone and you just have to catch me afterwards. So I'm going to rapid fire. I'm going to, oh, wait. I see. Here we go. There he is.
Don't separate.
Take the last few minutes of this show. My throat's starting to hurt.
Oh man. Well, good morning, everybody. Don't stay up late and watch your opponent that you're going to play the next week without checking to make sure you set an alarm. It's starting to get dark here, and the days are getting shorter. And the dog woke me up, and I'm like, it's a little bit bright out. Holy bleep! What time is it? So good to see everybody. The dog is actually joining me. He's on the ground here, chewing on something with his big old cone. So forgive me for being a little late, and it's good to see everybody. What are we talking about? What's going on?
I've been basically going through the chat a lot, honestly.
Okay.
Some of the when you start having keys, you're like, okay, I've got some keys to this thing. One of the big ones that I wanted to talk about was I don't know how Las Vegas, I almost said Oakland, how Las Vegas won their first 3 games against some really good teams after watching them against the Bears. They were awful. I mean, they were awful against Chicago. And most importantly, they were awful in the trenches, which is, that's the scary part on that. And of the awfulness, the Knicks forgiveness fund. Thank you, Dave.
Man.
And of the awfulness, Alex Leatherwood was the most awful I think I've ever seen at this level of awful. He made Jalen Mayfield look like an all-pro.
Yeah.
He was so bad.
Yeah, Jalen Mayfield, he's getting kicked into guard, or he already was kicked into guard because he was so bad. And that offensive line that used to be the Raiders' strength is now one of the worst in the league so far this year. So it's pretty concerning to see what they're going to do with that this year. And I got to give credit. I think why did the Raiders win their first few games? 2 really good weapons that complement each other greatly. I mean, Darren Waller, there's probably Travis Kelce is the only guy who's better at the tight end position right now. Well, George Kittle too up there, but phenomenal player. And Henry Ruggs is starting to really show out as well. And also they have a good quarterback. And when you have a good quarterback, a franchise quarterback, you could literally win any game. Even if your offensive line isn't good enough, if your defense isn't good enough, you could win. And
you gotta keep an eye on Jacobs too. He's a good cutback runner, so you got to maintain discipline in your lanes. But Jacobs, you're not going to arm tackle him. So if you're not maintaining discipline and you flow and leave a gap, the guy that's being blocked isn't going to reach out an arm and bring him down. He's going to get his arm broken.
He's a bowling ball.
So he's good too, but it was tough to watch. I said this, and I was listening to the commentary because I couldn't quite remember when the news had broken about John Gruden and the apology. At that point, it was, oh, he's come out and maybe we can move past this, blah blah blah. I'm like, okay, this has happened because they were awful. I mean, they were awful.
Yeah,
stupid penalties and bad in the trenches. That's not a good combination.
Yeah, and I don't know if you already covered this, but the player who is gay, whose name is escaping me right now, former Penn State player, edge rusher, asked to take time off because of what's going on.
Nassib.
Carl Nassib. Is it Nasib or Nasib?
I don't
I've read it.
know.
Okay.
I read it as Nasib.
Okay.
I want to have one comment on this real quick.
Okay.
Just because when the Michael Sam stuff was coming out, I'm like, we're never really going to have true equality in this world until people have the same reaction to this type of stuff that I do, which is I don't care. Can you get
Yeah.
after the quarterback? I don't care. So I was watching this Nasib, watching him, and I did a quick search. I'm like, how much has he been playing? And that's when I saw a headline on this that he is the NFL's only openly, and I didn't know that. And I'm
Yeah.
like, yes,
Yeah.
okay, good. We are starting to slowly get to real equality where we don't make such a big deal out of all this stuff. It's fine. Do what you want. Can you get after the quarterback or not? That's all I care about.
Yep. Yeah, he's been solid this year. Length pass rusher, former Penn State Nittany Lion, and he's taken some time off recently because of everything that's going on. So, I mean, that's a distraction. I know Darren Waller also did not participate. Now, is it because of what's going on with Gruden or not? They did not say, but he did not participate also. So, this is a team that's in disarray with everything going on. And if you heard me talk Tuesday morning or Tuesday night, this is a team that the Broncos better damn well beat. And we got Peter Middleton coming in saying coffee for Nick. Nick has not had his coffee yet. Nick would have loved his coffee,
You
but
know what wakes you up better than coffee? Panic.
panic.
Panic wakes you up really well. I'm late.
Oh man, you should have seen me hop out of that bed. I had an alarm set. I thought for 5:50, typically what I do. And I think I just okay, I can just lay here for 5 minutes. Gone. So I'm good to keep going for a little bit. I'm feeling alive. I'm glad to join you guys. And I'm really sorry to everybody. But here we are. I'm like, man, at some point I'm really afraid I'm gonna sleep through. I was just thinking this yesterday. Here we are. Shouldn't have thought it. But thank you very much for the stars there, Peter. It's great to see. And Chris Hernandez coming in, Nick made it, blah blah blah. Yeah, we're here. But I can also say I finally pulled a Chad / Zach. That's
Just plan it. Just say I didn't oversleep. I'll start when I'm good and ready.
Oh man, I'm typically so.
That's not how Nick and I operate. That's for sure.
No, not at all. Nick made it, but we're here.
And it hits 9:31 on my clock. I'm like, I start to shake.
Yeah,
people are waiting. I don't like people waiting.
I know. But hopefully the Raiders seem like they slept in too. This upcoming Sunday. This is the last time you and I are gonna get a chance to talk before the game. And obviously, we can go a little bit longer if you're feeling up to it.
Yeah, I'm okay. I mean, I'm just finishing my coffee now, so I'm good. Now I don't have to talk the entire time. If
I've
it's
done that a
okay
few
with
times.
the chat, we can go a little longer. I said I got a spoiler alert. I will be taking Chad's place on Mile High Huddle tonight.
Nice.
So that should be interesting because Zach and I haven't ever exchanged ideas, and we see eye to eye on several things, but we're really opposite on some others. So that could be a fun show.
Must see TV. All right. Well, I'm tuning in. That'll be fun. So Raiders game. Obviously, this is a huge one. Broncos. Would you say this is a must win for this team this year for Vic Fangio for everything? Because
it's getting close. It's getting close.
Falling.
You start 3-0 and finish 0-3 against the better competition, and all of a sudden you're going to lose belief from your players, and they'll go like this. I know which way the wind's blowing, and they stop playing for the guy. You can struggle and still have belief, and just like, listen, we're a couple years away. We don't have the right guys. But when you look around the locker room and you say, we got the guys here. Where we don't have it is up there, upstairs in the booth or on the sidelines. And those guys will know, I just have to buy my time. I've got a contract. I just have to buy my time, and I will be here next year. He won't.
Yep.
And they check out. And I think it is definitely a concern that you go 3-3 here, that it could go the wrong direction. The big positive is you should start getting some of your players back. Yeah. And that will inject a boost of energy into the team that you're not going to get from necessarily the coaching staff, no matter what. So those guys coming back, and they're excited to play, and they're excited to get back out there. That stuff can be infectious too.
Yeah, I would say this is a must win. I don't know how much I'm allowed to divulge, but it does sound like while Shermer might not be fired from this game, just from talking with people that more connected than I don't think Shermer will be fired if the Broncos come out flat. It does sound like he will lose play calling duties or responsibilities, and that'll fall on Mike Shula, was the offensive coordinator for Shermer with the Giants. So at least it's somebody who's done it before. But Shermer would probably still be kept around for game planning, scheming, etc. But he would just simply lose play calling responsibilities. So, and that, I mean, when you start to have that happening, it does seem like the writing's on the wall, right? Like guys are starting to lose their jobs, essentially, not their job, but like what they're doing. They're shifting to power dynamics, and you're reeling, and definitely right. Players can tell which way the wind is blowing.
Yep.
That's concerning. Then you go to the Browns on a short week, who is probably definitely a top 4 team in the AFC, the best pass rush in the NFL so far this year, the highest pass rush win rate. I mean, Myles Garrett's playing at a defensive player of the year level. Jadeveon Clowney's been great for them. Malik McDowell, who was a phenomenal player at Michigan State, total idiot. I'll just say that, he's had multiple things off the field, but really talented. And they're getting after it. So, man, you could be looking down the barrel of a 4-game losing game streak like that. So, I really do think this is a must win. You better get it. And if they lose this game, it would suck. But nothing would be worse than coming out as flat, low energy as we've seen the first 2 halves last time. Like, you're fighting for your life right now. Go out there and like show it. I don't know. I'm so upset about the energy in that Steelers game.
And yeah, and what do we say? It's okay to lose. After getting whipped by the Ravens, what do you need? You need to see a response.
Yep.
If you go to Pittsburgh and lose, okay, but you've got to see a response. And I don't feel like we saw it. I don't feel like we saw one at all. Now,
Nope.
Were there any lingering issues with Teddy Bridgewater and the concussion, those type of things? And as I've said multiple times, I feel like the injuries finally showed up in this game, where on a talented team, it's not always going to be the same players that are the players of the game that are going to be the ones that elevate your level. And maybe it's not Tim Patrick and Cortland Sutton. Maybe it's KJ Hamler, or it's Jerry Jeudy who has the matchup this year. And those guys are gone. Now, I touched on this earlier, and I want you to hit on this because you'll know a hell of a lot better than me.
Okay.
I feel like internally in our own little bubble here that sometimes you can overrate your own players.
Oh, easily.
And it's easy to throw all this on the coaches. Well, the coordinator's not getting the best out of this guy. The coordinator's not getting the best out of that guy. Is it possible that Noah Fant just isn't as good as we think he should be for a first-round pick?
Totally. Yeah, easily. He's obviously a first-round player, but and he was really featured at Iowa, but that was, the Big Ten. Not many teams can guard 2 first-round tight ends. He's also the second tight end drafted from his team. And at Iowa, there were some issues with being dialed in and whatnot. Like he didn't always have eye to eye with the coaching staff there. So I think he's a good player and he's well spoken and he's intelligent, but maybe he is slightly overrated. I mean, he does have some issues. He wasn't always the best route runner at Iowa, getting separation. He didn't always track the football the best. That was an issue with him, and he just kind of played a little linearly. So that was something that, sorry, got Conehead behind me here. That's what happens when you have to panic and run up here. There is definitely a chance that Noah Fant is not as good as we built him up to be in our heads. And that's true for, maybe it's true for Bradley Chubb as well. Maybe that's true for Drew Lock or Garrett Bowles, what we saw last year.
Some of the rhetoric that we hear across the channels is, Shermer's ruining this guy. He's still in the develop of that guy. It's like, maybe, and I'm certainly not a Shermer apologist. I'll get all over the fact that you got Javonte Williams making highlight runs every week. This is what we're all about at Broncos for Breakfast. We are all about family. I'll talk about schemes and everything, but as far as ruining guys, maybe they weren't that great to begin with. Me, I throw so much at the evaluation department and the evaluation and scouting and that, because that's my background. That it's like, well, maybe some of these guys were just misses and they're not living up to their billing, and it's not all on this guy or that guy, because it's so much easier as fans to think, man, if I just change this one thing, everything's going to be great. Well, maybe it's not. Maybe it's not. Maybe there's more problems than we think.
No, absolutely. And Yeah, if you always think like all these things are going to work out perfectly, right? You took the first round tight end, he's going to develop, et cetera, et cetera. Did Bradley Chubb, going to be a great player, and he's been good, but it just does not always work out according to plan. I would say there are teams that struggle more so than the Broncos in that regard as well, but that's fandom. I mean, it's something that if you were on the show Tuesday night, but Carl and I always, people like rag. It's people too close to the situation, right? And like it's like either they're way too good, they think they're way too good, or they're way too bad. Like the Broncos' offensive line, the worst offensive line ever. Why don't they ever invest in the offensive line? Well, they have, and they're not the worst offensive line ever. You're just not seeing the quality of the offensive line across the NFL right now because it's bad. The same goes for like tight end. Noah Fant, best tight end in the AFC West. Like, well, or one of the best in the AFC coming into the season. Like, well, look at Darren Waller. Look at Mark Andrews, what he's been doing. I mean, it's just, not the case. So we got Lawrence Rivera coming in here saying, I think Noah is a star, just used wrong. And that's the thing, too. Like, Noah Fant, he's maybe not playing as well right now. He needs to get more involved, but you don't quit on talent. And he's still really
Yeah,
young
and
as
I
well.
don't, again, going back to Lawrence's point, I don't want him single up blocking on
No,
TJ Watt.
no.
I want him in cover. If he's, I want him. I want Watt worried about Fant, not vice
Yep.
versa.
Yep.
I gotta get him some help if we're gonna make a running play against a former MVP type.
Mm-hmm.
That's just poor. But on Tuesday when we did Broncos for breakfast, I highlighted just how badly the scheme against Watt was. Like they didn't put
Mm-hmm.
a hat on him the first four running plays, not a one, or at least not anybody above 250 pounds. The first one was they tried to run away from him and didn't block him.
Yep.
You just flat out didn't block him. Think he can think he can go backside and pursuit and make a play? Yeah, he can.
Mm-hmm.
And the next one was a fullback, and the next one was Noah Fant. I'm like, that's not going to cut it. That's not going to cut it. So I want Fant to worry about. I want Watt to worry about what my weapons are doing. How are you going to do your job? And if you're just going to pin your ears back and go, I'll dump a screen over your head to one of these guys.
Yeah, and it's the thing about Shermer, and not to make it too Falcon-centric here, but like you heard me talking yesterday morning, how impressed and just what everything's doing, Arthur Smith and that offensive game planning staff is doing with not only Kyle Pitts, who's playing big slot and being moved around a lot, but Cordell Patterson as well. And they're maximizing what those guys do best and building the scheme around them. Big complaint about Shermer is that he has his scheme, and then whatever players he has, he's going to plug them into those roles, no matter what. Very much my scheme is more important than what my players do best. So it's been an issue.
And I don't ever believe in that. That's an arrogant. I mean, all coaches are arrogant, of course. That's how they get there. But that's an arrogance that is detrimental to the welfare of the team.
Yep.
Where the best coaches, it's a cliche for a reason. They're going to adjust their scheme to the talent that they have available to them, without a doubt. And Moron here makes a really good point. It's hard to tell what the talent is with all of the problems.
Yep.
So my question, just as a devil's advocate here, is: do some of these problems stem from the fact that they're not as good as we think they are? But I agree with Mo here on this, that I've seen some scheming things that are just head scratching, and everybody's seen the injuries. We certainly know that. So I agree with you on here. So my question on that was a little bit just trying to spark the conversation a little bit and play a little devil's advocate, because I think this offense is there's no probably. This offense is underperforming based on the talent available to them.
Yeah, and speaking of that, I don't know if the quarterback is playing that poorly. I mean, he's playing about as much as anybody, at least I should have expected, and maybe people got a little over their skis with the first 3 games, but he's still like top 3 in the NFL in completion percentage over expected, EPA per play. The area where his stats really fall short is third down, which the Broncos are averaging 3rd and 8. So that's, I mean, you're losing on 1st and 2nd down to get to that. And then the red zone, but in the red zone, the Broncos have been running the football in. So their red zone rate hasn't been good, and the play calling has not been great either. And he's got to be better there too, but I don't think it's a problem I'm screaming about yet at the TV. So that's got to be better. And I do want to ask you, how much of this, what you've seen, how much of the Broncos struggles on offense besides bad play calling, blah, blah, blah. They just don't have any quick hitters right now on the offense. Every single one of their weapons is this slow developing guy. I mean, Cortland Sutton, his ankles issues, and he's coming off the knee injury too. He's not doing much in the short game right now. Tim Patrick, he's good, but go ahead.
I think that's definitely part of it. Again, you miss Jerry Jeudy a lot.
And KJ.
He should be your number one receiver right now.
Mm-hmm.
Sutton could be that guy, but he's not quite there right now. I mean, right now, if I'm watching this for the first time, I'd say, who's the Denver Broncos' number one receiver? I go, well, Tim Patrick. Tim Patrick's the number one guy. And coming into the season, he's at best your 3 is what you're normally thinking. So when your 3 becomes a 1, you're going to be a little bit more limited. And as far as the slow developing stuff, it doesn't help when your interior line isn't playing that well. Because if I can be Garrett Bowles or Bobby Massey and just extend an arm and just push a guy around, that buys enough time for my quarterback to step up and make a play.
Mm-hmm.
When they're collapsing the middle of your offensive line, all of a sudden your passing lanes are blocked, your vision is blocked, and now I don't have anywhere to go. So how is anything supposed to develop if my interior offensive line is getting pushed back? So that's where there's been as much of a problem for me. So it is the injuries. And then we need to see better play across the board on the interior line, where we've played 5 guys through 5 games. You got your center, and then you've played 4 different guards because of injuries and whatnot. So, and some of that will get better. I truly believe some of that will get better through development of someone like Miners, of Glasgow coming in and out and getting healthier, Muti developing. He's not quite there yet. And then Reisner being put in a place where he's going to be playing to his strengths, which might be a little bit opposite of someone like Miners. So a lot of factors in there. But right now, for me, the 2 biggest factors for the offensive struggles right now are injuries and interior line play.
Yep. Injuries and interior line play. I mean, maybe some play calling as well, right up there. But Peter makes a good point also. Said this earlier, but Fant is playing injured. Fant is playing injured. That's something we want to talk about too. Talk about Fant. Is he living up to expectations, or is he as good as we think? Fant has been playing injured almost every single year. Now, I know it's the NFL and you got to, injuries are going to happen, but also there are injuries he's playing through. And to what extent, I commend him for that, but also the fact that he's been injured every year and maybe that's impacting his play is a factor you have to consider with not only, what his return on investment has been, but if they are going to pay him to retain him, right? Mm-hmm. So just something to keep in mind. And, it's a really, from where I'm sitting, gosh, I hate, I don't like saying like, oh, maybe it's, he's too injury prone, because I'm sitting here, eating potato chips and, drinking a beer. Like, God bless him for going out there and being injured and playing and doing his job. But
there's
something
the phrase the way you start talking about that is, I can't justify another contract for him because I can't trust him to be on the field when I need him.
Yeah, well, he's playing through it, but it's like, how much is it? Are we getting like 70% of no?
Yeah, he's not justifying he wouldn't justify again. You said it, the ROI. If you're going to pay him like a top 5 tight end, I need production like a top 5 tight end. And you're not getting it right now for one reason or another. It might not be his fault at all. And he should be commended for playing through pain and getting out there when he can. But that's not how this league works. You don't get rewarded for that for your next contract. Thanks for being tough and sticking it out, but we already paid you. We're not paying you again.
Yeah. But I mean, the Broncos still have 2.5 years of control on him. So there's still plenty of hope. Shermer, until the last 2 games, had been using 2 tight ends more. Now, Teddy Bridgewater hasn't been going to them as much as you'd hope. Now, is that the scheme? Is that the quarterback making the decision? Something we can't answer from where we sit unless we, sit down.
I don't have any doubt that Teddy and his skill set would like to use the tight end. It's short passes, to the hash marks. Yeah. That's right in his wheelhouse. So I don't necessarily put that one on. Teddy wants to go somewhere else. No, I think Teddy would love to hit the tight ends.
Yeah. He needs to be more involved. They need to get Saubert more involved while Alberto Cuebanam's injured, play more 12 personnel, maybe even get Andrew Beck more involved. This is a team that, right now they're soft. I guess that's the way to put it. It really sucks. But this is a team that's been mostly soft, other than some players who are not soft, like Javonte Williams not playing soft.
Kareem Jackson.
Kareem Jackson definitely not soft. Alexander Johnson not soft. But some of they're just kind of a finesse team. And are you going to out finesse the Chargers right now? Are you going to out finesse the Chiefs right now?
And what
No.
happens when the AFC North comes in, who are brawlers?
Yeah, exactly. It's everybody get your coffee ready, get a drink. But like it's like if the Iowa Hawkeyes like, you know what, we're gonna play air raid and
Drink.
put 5 wide
That's
receivers
okay.
on the
We
field.
can do the same thing when I say Falcons too. It's
Yeah,
just
there we go.
you make comparisons to things you know the best.
Yes, exactly. But right now they're just this is the team that was supposed to zig when other ones zag. And right now they're playing finesse. So Tim, I gotta be honest with you here. I thought I was too late to catch you guys. I thought I was too late to join. Nick woke up and his phone said it was 7:15, and he full on heart attack panic and is like, well, first woke up, saw, oh my gosh, it's a little light out. Oh my gosh, it's a little light out. Called Scott and he said, are you okay? I'm okay. I'm just slept through. I honest to God was up late watching the Raiders Bears, and that put me to sleep. And slept through that first alarm or hit snooze, and that was it. But we got Brent coming in, $3 over on YouTube with a super sticker. Thank you very much, Brent. I'm glad you could join us this morning. Glad everybody could join us. Glad I could join us. And shout out to Scott for giving us holding down the fort for a little bit. God, I'm embarrassed, but I'm glad I could make it a little bit at all. So thank you guys.
So I was actually, while you're doing that, I was going to look up Cleeks. He says Pitts is starting to heat up, but not like Burrow and Chase. I'm like, what has Jamar Chase been doing?
Oh my gosh, he's been amazing so far. Down the field, vertically. Now there's been some plays where it's been, close to a bad decision by Burrow or whatever. But like Chase, as a average depth of target and like just as a wide receiver, he looks like one of the best in the game immediately. He's been incredible. He really has been incredible.
I think the Miami Dolphins really, I still think they came out ahead, but they screwed up. They screwed up. They got the player that they really wanted was Jamar Chase.
Yep.
That was the guy that they wanted. Well, then they get 3 first-round draft picks, and they overpaid to move back up and still didn't get Jamar Chase.
Yeah.
So who'd they get? They took Jalen Waddle, right?
Yeah.
And then good, should be a good player. He's a little light in the seat, where Jamar Chase was a grown man. This was such a good draft that he didn't get the type of plaudits that he should. He's a top 2 or 3 pick in most drafts instead of falling down. So this draft was so much fun. We'll look back and that's how it felt while we were covering it. Now we'll let hindsight prove, but the skill guys that have gone in the top 10, I think, have certainly lived up to it. And as far as the quarterbacks go and the hype that surrounds them, let me put this phrase and just burn it in your mind. The NFL is hard. The NFL is hard, and those guys are going to bad teams. So am I surprised that they're struggling? No. We said all along, if you thought this was a playoff team, you don't go with a quarterback with a top 10 pick. Yep. If you go, it's a rebuild. The 49ers did it, but they traded up into it, and they felt they already had the pieces to do it. But if this was a quarterback of the future is not now. Future is still moving. Now just don't get these guys killed. That's the scary thing, is when you go to a bad team like that, is that you're going to get them killed.
And compoundingly bad. Obviously, the Dolphins traded up. They traded back from 3 to 12, but then they traded up from 12 to 6, giving up their first round pick. I think right now their first round pick is number 3 overall, if the draft was today, which is not good. Leave me alone. And then the Tua's not playing great, and they took Jalen Waddle instead of a offensive lineman, and Tua's been playing dinged up because their right tackle is bad and their offensive line is bad. Worse than the Broncos guys, believe it or not. I know, crazy for some of you. But they, it's been an issue. And now they have those picks. They used it on a speed wide receiver. Tua doesn't look like he might actually be an answer. I mean, he's fine, but is he a franchise quarterback? I don't know. Based on what I've seen.
We'll give him a chance. I mean, he broke his ribs in week 2.
Yeah.
So
yes, exactly.
Nick fell back asleep again. Oh, froze up with your eyes closed. It was kind of funny.
Oh
Brent
man.
Ayers, for your fantasy football folks, is Kyle Pitts the real deal? Yes, he is. He's going to be a Calvin Johnson-esque type of weapon for the next 10 years. He's the real deal. Flat out. I mean, Calvin Ridley could end up walking in a year or two, and he was a double holdback coming out of high school. So even when he plays the first year of his second contract, I think he turns 29 that year. So he entered the league at 20. He was 24 his rookie season. So how much are you going to give him? And he hasn't stepped up to be a number one type this year. The production was there last year. So talking fantasy right now, Calvin Ridley could be available next year. And Kyle Pitts, if you're in a keeper league, get him and keep him.
The real question is Matt Ryan going to be available next year?
In what way? Is he going to be with the Falcons?
That's what I mean.
Yeah, he'll play next year. Nothing happens with Matt Ryan until June of 2022. So he's there at least a year and a half, based on unless he would avoid his contract or something, which guys don't do. No. It's too cost prohibitive. It ended up being like a quarter of the salary cap in dead money if he left.
Yeah, no. Yeah, the dog it's not that he wants to go outside or anything. He just is a classic golden retriever. Summit.
Pay attention to me.
Yeah, come here. Come. Yeah, he's a single dog household, right? So he's just always wants the attention. But yeah, no, that's too bad about Matt Ryan, because he's one that obviously Aaron Rodgers is the dream, but if Matt Ryan was available, I would be interested. I think he's still a very competent quarterback. Now, has he lost a little bit of mustard on that arm? Yeah, he has. But Khalil coming in saying, no, we don't want Matt Ryan. I mean, I want competent quarterback play. And Matt Ryan is a beyond competent quarterback.
Matt Ryan is Peyton Manning light. They're very, very similar. He's not Peyton Manning, but he's Peyton Manning light. And you could win a lot of games with him. I just looked up in his last 3 games, he didn't have his 2 top receivers in Russell Gage and Calvin Ridley.
Yep.
Ridley hadn't played at all. And you guys are like, who? Exactly. Those are the weapons that he's got on offense for the receivers right now. His rating for the last 3 games would put him 5th in the NFL, playing for that offensive line in the Atlanta Falcons. He's a good quarterback. I think he's underappreciated in Atlanta because he's been there so long, and they've had their ups and downs.
Yeah, I mean, you start looking around the league, like who else would even be an option? If it's not Aaron Rodgers, maybe Russell Wilson, but he doesn't sound like he wants to go to Denver. Probably not Deshaun Watson. Probably just put that one. Talk about putting Matt on ice. Let's put Deshaun Watson on ice. Kirk Cousins? No, thank you. Pass. Jimmy Garoppolo? Hell no. Andy Dalton, another retread? No, thank you. I mean, at that point, I'd rather just play frickin' Drew Lock again or Teddy Bridgewater. So we'll see. But I think Matt Ryan is probably the second best quarterback or third best, not including Russell Wilson, that might be available. So we'll see.
Yeah, and Gary, what we've said in the past when we were going through all the Aaron Rodgers talks, if you don't get a guy like that somehow, Aaron Rodgers, Deshaun Watson, forget the off-field stuff. I'm just talking, availability and talent. And who was the third one that you mentioned that might be available? Not Russell Wilson. That seems like a little bit of a reach. Then I have thought since before I saw a snap this season that Teddy Bridgewater ends up being your quarterback next year while the guy you draft to replace him sits behind him.
Man, I'm all the way out right now on the 2022 quarterback class. It just does not. I think Matt Corral is fun, but he's a pure RPO quarterback. I don't know how he can operate a drop back at all. You think Zach Wilson is struggling in structure right now? Corral's going to struggle even more because he doesn't have the ability to extend plays that the natural ability to extend plays that Wilson has. And I like, name escaping me right now. Liberty quarterback Malik Willis. He's a fun player, but he's a little bit erratic with his decision making. He's throwing to pretty much wide open guys, and he's going to need a year to do it. Now, maybe that's the guy to do it, but he might be the best.
Yeah, you go 500, he might be available at 15, 16.
Yeah.
And then you take that guy and sit him for a year. But we said all along, if Teddy Bridgewater wins this job, then you have a new quarterback in 2023. So
I agree with you there. And also, this might be not revolutionary, but the quarterback is so important, and maybe it's not the best use of resources, but until you get the quarterback right, it's in today's league, good freaking luck. why not just draft one every freaking year, like in the first round? I don't like. Why has nobody done that? It's that important of a position.
Wouldn't be that much different than taking, trading 3 first rounders for one, right?
Yeah, I'd rather take one every single year than trade 3 first rounders for one because I'm really increasing my odds. And guess what? We saw Josh Rosen have as bad of a season as any quarterback ever in the last 5 years, right? For a full season, and they got an early second round pick for trading him back. So I don't know, man. I know the teams don't do that, and there's something to be said about like locker room dynamics, but like you can't be afraid of
Well, and
having
with
the
the rookie
guy.
deals, that you couldn't do that. It used to be so stupid where the highest guy in the draft was the highest paid guy in the league was the first quarterback taken in the NFL draft. That was insane. I'm
Yeah,
glad they
Sam
they
Bradford.
I'm glad they figured that out, and it's like, let's cap the rookie contracts so we can pay our veterans, the people that have actually played a game, because otherwise it was so risky to take a quarterback. You'd cripple your franchise for 4 years if you missed on a guy in the top 5.
Yep. Not the case anymore. You do have to play a little bit of dead cap games if that happens. Like you're gonna eat a good amount of dead cap with especially a top 10 first round pick if you're trading them. But it's just that important position, and I think the Cardinals should be a lesson. And what's going on with Miami right now should be a lesson. Maybe they should have taken a quarterback at 3. Maybe they should have taken Trey Lance.
I said that, and then I'm willing to walk back on that one until we see Tua, because he's 1-0 as a starter this year.
Yeah.
He went out early against the Bills, and they've been giving up a ton of points. He should be back this week. Tua should be back this week against the Jags. And if you're ever going to get healthy, pun intended, play on words intended. If you're ever going to get healthy, the Jags are probably the team to do it. So let's see how he goes.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you feel better about hitting your franchise quarterback if you have Tua or Tua plus Lance? It's like that kind of thing, and it's that important where I know there'll be backlash and whatnot, but I mean, you got to start to consider
I wasn't sold on Lance.
No,
That level, going back to the Malik Willis thing, and again, I like Justin Fields a lot.
Yeah.
Again, he's one of any of the rookie quarterbacks. None of them are. I think the 4 rookie quarterbacks are
5.
29, 30, 31, and 32 in the ratings right now. And I think you go one more up, I think it's Sam Darnold for the Carolina Panthers. So I wouldn't have felt great about Lance, depending on if they could have gotten him, stayed at 3 and taken him. Okay, maybe, but
it's just a probability thing.
That as being a huge upgrade on paper over what you had in Tua.
Yeah, for me, it's just more of the probability and how important it is in hitting that guy. And also, quarterbacks retain their value more. Like right now, if there was an open market trade, even though he's played as bad as anybody, Sam Darnold, right? What he got 2 second round picks back for Sam Darnold.
They got one. Wasn't it one?
Okay, he got 1 second. And there was something else too.
I don't know. I think it was 1, and then they picked up his option right away. So they're in for another, $17 million for him next year. They're paying $40 million to have the 25th or 26th best quarterback in the league right now. So
yeah, but they traded him, and that's good. They got value for him. The Jets did. Maybe Zach Wilson is a different version of Darnold. I don't know. Maybe the Jets are just cursed. Who knows? But then like you have, let's say Saquon Barkley was available. You're not going to get a second for Saquon right now with his injuries and the position he plays. So it's just even if you take the wrong quarterback early, a lot of times you can still flip that guy for value if he doesn't work out. So I don't know. I know that it's like, you can't be afraid. Like if you're afraid that you're going to upset your potential young quarterback before drafting another guy, guess what? He's probably not the guy, because he's going to have to fight for your whole life.
You can tell that you've been here, Nick. Our numbers are up significantly. I made the joke earlier. I'm like, you can tell Nick's a popular one in this podcast, because when I was watching, it'd go up and then it'd be like, oh, it's that guy. And I'd watch the numbers go back down. So
no, not true. That's for sure. Now, well, yeah, guys, I'm sorry that I slept in a little bit. I'm glad we could still get in some quality time. Been here for 40 minutes now, 45 minutes talking some ball. It's been great. Is there anything else you want to touch on, Scott, before we get on out of here? I know this is our last chance together before the Raiders game, but I know that you're going to get a chance to talk.
Let's hit a prediction.
Okay.
What do you think? I got let me look it up. It's Raiders at Broncos, Denver by 3.5, over under of 44.
I'm going to go over. I think this is a game that Derek Carr the Broncos play soft zones, and they don't get much, send much blitzes. So what does that mean? There's spots available underneath, and if you're a patient quarterback, accurate underneath, you can move the ball down, matriculate the ball down the field for you Hank Stram fans out there at home. Boo the Chiefs, though. But I think that they'll put up some points, but I think the Broncos are going to put up some points too. This is a game where the Raiders so far this season have not really blitzed also. They prefer to get pressure at the front four, and that's kind of fallen off pretty recently. It was doing very well early, but then, Yannick Ngakoue, Max Crosby, their other guys have not been as good the last 2 weeks. So I think this is going to be a game that's going to hit the over, and I think the Broncos are going to win this one 31-20. I think they'll cover. I think the Raiders are. Maybe I'm trying to manifest it too, because if the Broncos lose this is going to be really bad. I mean, the place is going to just fall apart. The fan base is just going to fall apart because you cannot lose to the Raiders with what's going on with them right now. So I'm going to go 31-20 just because any other reality is unacceptable.
At 44, I do like the under.
Okay, you think a low-scoring game?
I do like the under. The Broncos offense hasn't been playing very well, even against a really, they haven't been playing very well. And even against a team that is giving up some points and doesn't look that great right now in the Raiders, the way they played, I don't expect them to go out and throw up 30 points. So even if they're 24 and they hold them to 14, you're looking at 38 and you're still on the under. So even 24-17, 21-17, in that neighborhood, you're still under. So I like the under in this one. I feel better about the under than I do about a pick in this one. However, I would go Denver Broncos 24-17. I think they're the better team. And as long as the rallying cry for the Raiders of we're embarrassed and we're going to go out there and be pissed off doesn't take over, and it shouldn't. Being home makes a difference for this one. Being in Denver with 70,000 screaming people up in the altitude at Mile High, that I think Denver comes out and they're up 4-2, and people will complain that they didn't score more points.
Yeah, I know. Absolutely, I totally agree with you. Key to the game: Broncos starting fast. That's one that really upsets me. Last we had the Ravens game, the Steelers game. They started off slow, but now you have the home fans in front of you. Give them a reason to cheer. Give them a reason to support you, because this fan base, everybody can say what they want about Avs. Avs started again. Yay, go Avs. Rockies, Nuggets are great right now. Denver's a Broncos town. This team their fan base wants to support you, but if you come out and play bad, boring football to start against the Raiders in a do or die week, this fan base is going to turn on you, and rightfully so. So, go ahead, Scott. Let's get this one.
Let's hit this one, Dave. On Tua, Mac, or Geno, I would never start Geno Smith. So it comes down to Mac or Tua. Tua's coming off broken ribs going against Jacksonville. Jacksonville has the 8th worst passing defense. However, despite their 4-1 start, the Dallas Cowboys have the 2nd worst passing defense. They've given up 10 passing touchdowns and almost 1,600 yards in 5 games. So I think Mac Jones might be the way to go on this one. I would be looking in the waiver wire for a different quarterback, though, Dave. But I'd probably go Mac Jones on this one out of those 3.
I agree with you there. Dallas, Trevon Diggs is having a great year with the interceptions, but he's given up a lot of yards and receptions too. So boomer bust, very much so. We got Khalil Herr coming in here saying, "I'm flying to Denver for this game. Go Broncos." Well, enjoy yourself, have fun, and hopefully it's a win for you. And hopefully those Raider fans aren't too nasty. They have a reputation, rightfully so.
She has told us this once before, but is it Kayla or Kyla? Isn't that what it was? If you do that for one more time, we won't have to ask again. So I would say Kyla, but I'm not sure on that one. So we'll have a good time. Have a good time at the game. Hopefully it is a beautiful game. Make lots of noise and make our predictions come true, because I like being right. That's what makes me happy. I like being right. Then JC says I'm late. You know what? So are we. So we went extra. We went extra just for you. Nick looks frozen again. You can go ahead and take a nap. Kyla. Okay, good. And Nick was frozen again. Go ahead and take a nap, and we'll let you get going. I know you are you've got stuff to do, and you got a little bit of a late start to your day.
Well, I appreciate Scott for holding down the fort and you guys for joining us today. We really do appreciate you. This is obviously the Broncos for Breakfast, part of the Huddle Up Podcast Network. You can find Scott and myself on Twitter, myself at Nick Kendell MHH and Scott at Scout Kennedy. Follow us at Huddle Up Pod and at Mile High Huddle. Join us on Facebook, facebook.com/Mile High Huddle. And join us on YouTube by subscribing, liking, and sharing. Thank you, everybody, for being patient. Joining us today. Special shout out to Scott for holding it down. And I'm okay. We're going to see. Yep, we got Kyla manifesting here, which is phenomenal. And also manifesting Broncos 16 and Broncos 15 and 2. Got to update that name there. But $20 coming in.
The closer coming in. The closer coming in to send us out.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you so much, Broncos 15 and 2. And thank you guys so much. And we will see you soon next Tuesday. And Scott will see you tonight with Zach. So must see TV. That'll be great. Hopefully everybody has a good one. Make sure you're getting your sleep. And I'm going to go make myself some coffee. All right. Peace, guys.